The following program is made possible with support from the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation.
Welcome to Science Goes to the Movies, a look at the stories of science and how they change our culture. I'm Heather Berlin.
And I'm Faith Saley. Science Goes to the Movies is all about movies, TV shows, pop culture, and science.
Today, we're going to talk about disaster movies.
Starting with the newest offering from Roland Emmerich. In Independence Day 2, Resurgence, the nations of Earth collaborate on an immense defense program to protect our planet. When aliens attack with unprecedented force, only the combined ingenuity of a few brave men and women can save the world.
They're coming back.
Today you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. Fall back! We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate life.
We're delighted today to be joined by Bill Nye, science educator, comedian, television presenter, actor, mechanical engineer, author of 2 New York Times bestsellers, Unstoppable and Undeniable, and most importantly, good friend for a decade. Welcome.
Hello. Did we leave anything off the list? Are you a hand model? I mean, you designed your bow tie.
I worked with Nick Graham to design the bow tie. Who's Nick Graham? He came up with Joe Boxer. For those of you who've never heard of Nick Graham, he's a charming guy.
Well, thank you for dressing up for us.
Well, of course.
In the 1970s, NASA sent up into the skies something called the Golden Record, created by Carl Sagan and intended for any intelligent extraterrestrial life form to understand life on Earth. In Independence Day, aliens come to destroy us.
The way they do.
The way they do. Is it a good idea to be inviting these aliens to Earth?
We're inviting them very slowly. You know, there's an extraordinary spacecraft, 2 of them, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. They've both been flying for 38 years. Voyager 1 is believed to have just left the heliopause, the last influence of the sun, our sun.
So they've been fine. What does that tell you? There are no aliens, or the aliens are like, we don't care about you guys?
The aliens are a lot farther away than that.
Are they there?
Extraordinarily, they got to be there. We have
Yes.
200 billion stars in the Milky Way. There's got to be somebody
But do you ever
else out
worry?
there.
I mean, we have this, so many people want to reach out to the aliens and communicate with them. If they're out there, is their life out
Heck
there?
yes.
But do you fear that they could be dangerous? Like maybe it's not such
No,
a good idea?
I do not fear that. But here's what the Golden Records did. They got everybody in the world really involved in asking ourselves, what is important to us? What are we proud of? What is it about humankind that we think is worthy?
So in this genre of movies where the alien comes to destroy the Earth, human beings always...
Huge trouble.
But the human beings always come together, regardless of race or background to save the planet. So here's my question, Bill. Will it take an attack on humanity to finally see us all come together and realize that we are more similar than we are different?
Right on, but it is to be hoped that not. We are more similar than we are different, and I hope we learn that through, if I may, more peaceful means. If you read my first book, which was a New York Times bestseller, in there I point out that everybody is really from East Africa, really, humankind. And what changes our skin color is the amount of ultraviolet light that where your tribe lives, your group, your extended family. And so it's fascinating. People migrated north, and it's this delicate balance you have to have between getting enough vitamin D but not having so much ultraviolet light that you break down your folates, your folic acid, especially important for women because you bear kids. And this effect is so strong. It's like 100 generations, which is nothing. If you have the wrong skin color in ancient times, before everybody could get tablets and had clothing and hats.
And you're saying wrong skin color in terms of
not
survival?
Not quite. Wrong skin color for the neighborhood you are living with the amount of ultraviolet light that falls on the Earth's surface. You would not make it. Your offspring would not make it. This selection effect is very, very strong. So if somebody from, let's pick an exotic place, Finland, interacts with somebody from Botswana, all you get is a human. You don't get some new, different thing. If a dachshund interacts with a Great Dane, all you get is a dog. Along this line, the reason we celebrate space exploration is because it brings out the best in us. And what I say to kids, if you embrace science and study science, you will have this view of the world that is empowering. You'll see the big picture, is my claim.
Given that we have movies that show the world ending by water, by disease, by sentient apes, you'd think we'd be better prepared to understand it. But for many, the concept of the possible non-fiction global meltdown is unfathomable. And so you've joined with the National Geographic Channel to help people go through these 5 stages of climate
Well, it was based
change
on
grief. So what are the 5 stages of grief?
Well, we have Dr. Berlin here, but it's Kubler-Ross. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah.
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
First, you're in denial.
Okay.
Denial. Then you're angry. Then you. Is there one in between?
Bargain.
Then you bargain, but
Right.
then you depressed, and then you accept. But the premise was charming, because I was in denial. And my therapist was Dr. Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's a very conservative politician, but is very concerned about climate change. And he would say, because he's facing the facts and so on. So it was charming, and we went around the country and Canada, went around North America, investigating climate change. We went to Miami Beach, where the city engineer has managed to get ordinances in place or building codes in place where you have to move the electrical outlets and light switches twice. In other words, you have to have enough slack on the wires in the wall so that they can be moved up twice. This is in ground floor retail businesses because they anticipate pouring a new floor, as we say in construction, a new cement floor
Because
twice
of flooding?
to raise the level of the floors over the next 2 decades. Meanwhile, the governor of Florida says you can't use the phrase climate change in any meeting. And we met 2 reporters who were in the press conference or in the legislature's proceedings where he asserted this. And the people are just shaking their heads.
Did you get to question the governor about that?
I didn't. We met the reporters who had been there. It was about a year ago. And so then we interviewed a guy, Legislator Hill, who believes, or he said he believes, that if you humble yourself before his deity, Pensacola, which is in his district, will not have any problems. Meanwhile, it's flooding continually, and he acknowledged that it floods continually.
Because they're not humble enough.
And then he acknowledged that people will move. They will leave Pensacola. But where do they go? If nothing else, they go north and inland. If nothing else, it impoverishes the economy of Florida, let alone the upheaval.
You have these very compelling interactions in
Then-
this special, but it's also very funny. And in this special, Arnold Schwarzenegger says, science got us into this mess, and science has to get us out, right? So did science get us into this mess?
So, scientists develop steam engines. We learned about thermodynamics, phase changes, especially in water, led us to create steam engines powered by fossil fuels, most notably coal. You go to parts of Scotland, there are no trees because humans cut them all down to burn stuff. And so we developed these extraordinary prime moving energy machines, and we could put a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and methane, and we're warming the world up.
So basically, industrialization got us into this mess. But it's not like in the history of the world, our climate has never changed before. So Why is the current rate of climate change so alarming right now?
Doctor, you have hit the nail on the head. It's the rate. It's the rate. So we have natural variations, especially what is everybody's favorite two Spanish words right now? El Nino.
Oh.
Okay, we have this fabulous El Nino, but superimposed on that is this rate of warming. And we are warming the world about 1 million times faster than it has historically during warming and cooling periods. Right about 1 million, 10 to the 6th. So this is the problem. It's not that the world didn't used to be warmer. It's not that there even once was more carbon dioxide in the ancient dinosaur days. Those were the days. But it's the speed. Just 2 centuries, we've taken it up from 250 or 280 parts per million, now we're 400. I mean, it's almost a factor of 2.
Can it be stopped? Can that rate?
This is what we, God, look at your furrowed brow. That's what we want, people, is furrowed brows, concern. So as an engineer, we always seek a technical solution to pretty much any problem. So yes, we want to have carbon capture technologies, and it's believed that we'll bring it down from $600 a ton to reckoned in US dollars, to about $20 a ton using these fancy resins.
When?
Replanting
When?
trees. Yeah, exactly. So there's a whole bunch of warming that's baked in, pun intended. There's no way to stop it. After you have the roast in the oven or the vegetarian casserole in the oven, and you take it out of the oven, it's still going to warm inside for quite a while. It cooks on the way to the table, as we say in French, or my French grandmother used to say. And so there's a certain amount of warming that is irreversible for humankind, at least in the century-style term.
You love analogies and metaphors and stories that make
Well, I'm telling you,
science
this is
come alive for
humankind.
people, right? And that's part of your media savvy. I mean, do you think that? No, that's not a criticism. That's
I know, it's very
that's part of why people
charming.
give
Bring it
Bill
on.
Nye standing ovation. Do you think that this is increasingly important for scientists today?
I think that having the ability to connect with people in a way that will allow them to digest the science. So it's not enough, what I was going to say, you were saying all these numbers and, about what was happening in West Virginia, and you can increase the jobs and, all these. Well, people, I think in order to help motivate them to change, just telling them the statistics and the facts isn't enough. You need to.
Kind of depressing.
Yeah, you need to appeal to people in a motive way. You need to get in somehow before they'll listen. And I think using entertainment, getting information in via film, being funny, having a cute bow tie,
Dancing with the stars.
As well as funny
but
looking.
it's not enough to just, I think, be entertaining or funny or even attractive like you, Bill. It is, you need to have that followed up with substance. But I think the trick is using entertainment to get a way in so that people can digest the information in a way that's, amenable to them.
So another story from my engineering days. So, we've discovered the Higgs boson, or shown that the Higgs boson exists. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Anyway, when I was coming of age as an engineer, there was a proposal to build a superconducting super collider. At one point, it was going to be in Washington State in Idaho, where plutonium was invented. But instead, it was going to be in Texas, where there's a lot of room and very influential political people. It's going to be cool. The physicists show up in the U.S. Congress hoping to fund this thing. We hope to tease at the subatomic particles at 7 sigma to show that the Higgs particle... No.
Boring.
We are going to unlock the next secret of the universe.
We're going to smash
That's what
stuff.
we're going to hear. That's what we're here for. The next secret of the universe.
Right.
So it's about the presentation. It's about the delivery to make people care.
In my opinion.
But in your Nat Geo special, you also talked about the Canadian tar sands.
It's one of North
Oh,
America's
man.
Can you
carbon
please explain what the Canadian tar sands are and why people are so angry about them?
You're walking through the forest in 1884, and the Athabasca River flows through the province of Alberta, and it cuts through the soil. And you're a geologist, and wow, that soil is dark. Wait, it's not just soil, it's tar. There's a layer of tar, enormous. It takes up, I'm shooting from the hip, certainly half of the province, a third of the province. has this layer of tar under the forest, under the topsoil. The chemical engineer and his staff figured out a way to take the tar and make it into what they call synthetic crude oil. And you burn it just like regular oil. You make gasoline out of it, lubricant, the whole oil fossil fuel party. But it takes about a third or 30% of the energy in the tar to create this synthetic oil. Furthermore, you destroy the forest. To do it economically, you just scalp the forest. All kinds of species live there. The forest takes in carbon dioxide, releases oxygen. And wait, there's a very personal story. They're First Americans, First Nations, as they're called in Canadian parlance. They're like, hey man, the river is now full of your amazing toxic stuff. I have kids, and now they have skin rashes, and now we can't take showers, and I can't drink the water, and what is going on here? Now, because of the tar sands, Canadians per capita are the single biggest polluters in the world, per capita.
I've heard that if they do use all the oil and then take it out of the ground, that it's a given that the oceans will go up 20 feet. I mean, this is like a disaster.
It's very reasonable. And the reason the oceans are going up is twofold, everybody. First of all, ice is falling off continents, Greenland and Antarctica. You're actually adding water to the ocean. And then the other thing is when you get something warm,
It
expands.
So this is something I never
the
occurred to
oceans
and when I saw
expand.
your special, warm water takes up more space.
Warm water expands. I can't stop this. It's not my thing. I'm not involved in that. That seems to be the nature of the universe. So you can't shoot the messenger on that and get anywhere. So the tar sands are amazingly bad. It's just amazing that humankind did this. First of all, you're extracting this oil that's now not worth what everybody anticipated it was going to be worth. People are out of work. But you've also destroyed the forest, and it's not going to come back.
On your show, you go to Miami where they're raising houses on these foundations.
Yeah, so
right?
there's two places. There's Miami and there's Miami Beach.
Well, the engineering phase of bargaining, which is exemplified by that, right? It kind of seems like a really expensive waste of time.
Well,
I mean, which kind of segues me into the depression phase, right? I mean, is the depression phase of climate change just as dangerous as the denial phase?
I'd ask you, the expert psychologist, neuroscientist, but here's what I say. You have to be optimistic. If you don't think you can solve the problem, you will not solve it.
I don't feel optimistic with everything you're telling me.
So let's go. Let's get to work.
But I don't. But so I'm sitting here, and somebody watching this is sitting here, and we're all feel galvanized. But all I can do is, I'm going to recycle harder. Like, what do we do?
Well, I think people.
I love you guys. This is great.
No, but what do we do? Let's go. But what does let's go mean?
I'll tell you when.
Okay, I was just going to say
about
the depression. It can be more dangerous because what you're experiencing, why you're saying you're not optimistic, is because you feel almost apathetic or that you have no control over the
Like I
situation.
can't do anything to help.
When you get to a point, and there's a whole, Martin Seligman, did his experiments with dogs, and he had them in a cage, and he would shock them, and one dog could press a lever and make the shock stop. So he had control over that. The other dog would just get shocked, and it would stop only when the other dog had pressed the lever. He had nothing to do with it. He had no control. And then they put them in cages where they can escape. They can jump over and escape the shock. Well, the one who had control would jump over and escape. The other one would just sit there and take the shock. I know, it's horrible.
So awful.
And that's called learned helplessness. And I think that's what, and that leads to, it's depression because you feel like it's out of my control. There's nothing I can do. I might as well just sit here and do nothing. But I think telling people actually, no, there is something you can do. You can control the situation. You can have an effect. Will get people out of that apathetic or, depressive state.
So we can vote. We can
That's
vote
it.
for people who don't
You can
deny
vote.
climate change.
It's a huge thing.
But then there's this whole electoral college thing. Frankly, I don't feel excited about the fact that I can vote. Will I vote? Yes. Will I
better
recycle?
vote.
Yes.
You know what the truth
But
of the
what
matter
else?
is? This is the truth of the matter. And and maybe you'll agree, but at the individual level, the problem is so large that it
How
is
large is
true. Okay, it's very large. At the individual level, to be fair, whether you recycle or not is not going to make a huge difference.
No.
What's going to make and that's true. But what will make a huge difference is having global policy laws, like for example, a globally harmonized carbon tax. So that
Carbon tax would be.
carbon tax.
But we
will-
don't call it a tax. You can't
What do
call
we
it a
call it?
tax.
Okay, what
That's
do we
evil.
call it?
It's a fee. carbon fee.
So those who use more of it will pay more. It incentivizes people to use less. People in poorer countries are the ones who tend to not use as much. And so they will gain from it because you can redistribute the tax to the people in poorer countries who don't use
This would
as
be
much.
the fabulousest thing. So here's the deal.
That's so voting does matter is what I'm saying. 'cause
Voting
it'll
matters
change
so much,
policy.
especially this year.
So, Bill, you are, among all the many, many things you do, are a writer. And if you were going to write your own, if you were going to write your big blockbuster, perhaps a disaster film, what would be the plot in 3 sentences? Or less?
Humans ignore climate change. Flooding in coastal cities disrupts the economic system and people starve. There's not enough chlorine to clean water, not only in Flint, but in Chicago and Bangkok and Paris.
But I'm on the
And
edge of
then
my
the-
seat. What's the end?
Everybody has a much lower quality of life. They're dead, smallpox, a new strain of Zika virus. It's
You know, the
gonna be bad.
Zika, this behind us.
This was the end of the world thing you wanted. This
No,
isn't.
well, no, I mean, this is also, you could write,
Oh, an
you're
upbeat
the
one.
author, you could, no, I'm asking you what your story would be. You've seemed pretty optimistic this whole time while delivering us pretty harrowing news, so I did not anticipate such a depressing ending to your film.
So,
But it's okay.
let's do this way. People elect a forward-thinking progressive in the United States in 2016 who decides this is just as bad as World War II, and everybody gets together. People in World War II were recycling bones. My grandmother was recycling bones for calcium, for adhesives, for aircraft to win the war.
But to connect just one thing that really connect what's actually happening in the world today to a film, which is right behind us, this film Children of Men. with
Oh, I'm
Clive
sorry, I
Owen.
just thought Clive Owen was
Oh,
behind
yeah.
us, that's all.
But this film, I don't know if any of you've
You
seen
have
it.
a different background.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah,
dark.
well, what it is that basically there's something that occurs and women can't have children anymore, and then they're down to basically, the youngest person who was 18 just died, and then they find this one woman who was like a miracle, she's pregnant, and they're trying to save her. But the point is, right now we have this Zika virus, which is spreading, and we don't know what's going to
Just
happen.
a little climate change, nothing to worry about.
Exactly, because the mosquitoes normally wouldn't come up this high, but now they are, and there's a threat that they'll even come to New York. Okay, and these children are being born with microencephaly, which is a very small head and brain, which causes all sorts of problems. Now, and the scary thing about this virus is that only 1 in 5 people get symptoms even to show it. So you can be a carrier and not even know you have it. They said it could spread, it could be sexually transmitted, which is very scary. And so this film, in a way, is not too far. I mean, something like this could theoretically happen. So if we don't all come together to change things, this is a real possibility.
So can
Furthermore,
climate, furthermore, go ahead.
how are you going to solve the problem? How are you going to detect the Zika virus? How are you going to address it? How are you going to make a vaccine? With magic? No, with science.
And people need to come together across nations. It's not enough
And
for.
fund the Centers for Disease Control to work on this problem. There's people who would be fascinated to work on this
So
problem.
you think
if we
that
pay 'em.
you think climate change can be the other that binds us all together as humans?
Certainly, it will sooner or later, but what we all want is sooner. The economic opportunities in wind and solar, geothermal, some tidal here in the United States are just enormous.
All right, Bill, let's turn to the second half of the Arnold Schwarzenegger quotation in your Nat Geo special. So he says, science got us into this mess, science can get us out.
You're the science guy.
Is science going to get us out?
Yeah, but I like to say it's going to be engineers. That's what I like to say.
Okay.
People use science.
Wait, not
to solve-
neuroscientists? What's
Yeah,
we can do
neuroscientists have a-
something. I
You
mean,
can all get us out.
Hold
But
on,
is
what
that
do you
what's
mean?
going to happen?
Neuroscientists have a huge role, in my opinion.
In what way?
They educate us about the nature of our brains, the nature of denial, the nature of optimism, the nature of tribes and groups and countries. Are you kidding?
Human psychology is key in this. It's not just the science, it's changing how people think so that they'll actually do
Yeah. What we're all hoping and believe will work is public opinion. If your country is slacking off on its obligations under these agreements in Paris, we want to draw attention to it. Furthermore, if
Shaming.
Furthermore, if you're doing
That
really-
works, right? On people's brains?
Yeah, shame
Sure
is a great
does.
one. Reputation management is huge. Yeah. People will act differently if they know their reputation is at stake. If they know people are watching, they'll be called out. Yep.
Ladies, there's TV cameras here. So along that line, if you're doing really well, let's say you convert West Virginia to wind and solar, then you tell the world. And so they follow you. And then my dream is that a country like the United States would develop this technology, wind turbines and distribution of electricity. It's an opportunity for somebody to improve our transmission lines. We could export that technology and bring clean water, reliable electricity, and the information technology to everybody in the world.
And financially incentivize people towards change.
Big fan of that.
Well, on that note,
Yes, I would say this conversation has added carbon monoxide to the atmosphere in the most beneficial way, Bill.
Dioxide.
Thank you. Oh, dioxide.
The
See,
problem-
that's why you're the science guy.
Carbon monoxide
dioxide.
bonds with your hemoglobin, and it's not carbon, then it gets you
Yeah.
instead of oxygen.
Carbon dioxide.
Dioxide, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for including me.
yeah, it's been great having you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so much for
spending
coming.
time. Yeah.
Science at the movies.
Don't forget to check us out on the web at CUNY.tv under the Science tab, where you'll find past shows, additional content, and a link to our app.